Before we start, go to your controls and make sure the neutral over side box is checked. And if you're on keyboard, unbind up from jump and make it aim up. It will be significantly harder to play Greatsword if you haven't done this. Whether you're a seasoned player looking to refine your skills or a newcomer eager to learn the ropes, this guide will provide you with everything you need to master the weapon. From devastating combos to strategic playstyles, I'll cover all the essential techniques and tips to help you dominate in the battlefield. So sharpen your blades and get ready to unleash the might of the Greatsword. Let's get started. It only makes sense that we start off by talking about approaching. The best way to improve is by focusing on your movement. If your movement is bad, that's what's holding you back the most, especially since Brawlhalla is a platform fighter. So an important thing to practice is dash jumping. You can use this to bait out attacks, close distance, and it's just annoying to fight against. But knowing how to implement dash jumping into your playstyle can help you better approach with Greatsword. I'll show you how to dash jump, guys. So step 1, move in the direction, that you want to dash jump in, like left or right. That's easy. So I'll move right. Step 2, you're gonna add a dash. So moving right, dash. That's easy. That's so easy. Look at this. Move right, dash. Boom. Step 3, you're gonna add a jump. Move right, dash, jump. Boom, boom, boom. And you can just jump immediately after clicking dash. You don't need to wait till you after you're done dashing. You just jump immediately. Step 4, after you jump, you're going to fast fall. So like that. And basically fast fall, you hold down in the air, right? You just click down in the air. Now this step is pretty tricky to people. So if you can't fast fall after you jump like this, you might just want to work on step 3 and 4, which is just jump, fast fall, until you're really quick with it. You're really quick with it. And then once you get this down, then you can just try it all over again. Then you can just try to do it all together. Now this isn't the fastest you can get it. You can get it pretty quickly, like this. Now to do it that fast, basically when you're in the air and you're fast falling, once you're pretty close to the ground, you just dash and you kind of snap onto the ground. I'll probably slow it down so you can see this. Your character is snapping onto the ground when you're right above the ground and you dash. So you don't need to wait until you're on the ground to dash if you want to do it super quickly, because Brawlhalla has that new snap dash feature that they added semi-recently, which allows you to just dash when you're not on the ground, But yeah, that's basically it. Move your direction, dash jump, and then fast fall, and then dash just right above the ground to get it super quick. That's it. That's the tutorial. It's that simple. You might want to go into training, practice that a little bit, but this is really useful, not just in playing Greatsword, but just in general. This is just really a useful thing to know. On Greatsword, there are a lot of really good attacks to dash jump into, like recovery and nair. Dash jump recovery is a really solid move when you're trying to finish a stock. It has decent speed and it's hard to punish. I'll go over more in the section on how to finish a stock. Dash jump nair is really good to use. It's a quick move to keep your opponent in the air, and keep in mind that nair comes out a lot faster than recovery, but recovery sends farther. Now let's talk about the light attack openers. You rarely want to throw out D-Light unless you're catching an opponent's landing when they are low on options or if they're running away. This is because most of the time, D-Light is predictable and easy to punish. So try to get rid of the habit of using D-Light to save you from frustration when you get into the higher elos. Then you have Enlight. Enlight is a decent move, but not the best to use for a combo starter, so I don't recommend trying to hit your opponent with Enlight while you're in neutral. And lastly, we have Sidelight. Sidelight is your best option of the 3 light attack openers with decent range and small end lag, meaning if you miss the attack, you can input moves sooner than attacks like Enlight and D-Light. Sidelight is a great poking move that you can use to see how your opponent likes to dodge, and you'll mainly be starting your combos with Sidelight. Later in the video, I'll be going over what to do after landing the first attack. But for now, let's get into the topic of neutral. I'm sure you've heard this term before, but a lot of people don't really understand what this means. Neutral is the state in which both players are capable of moving and getting hit. There's no damage output and both players have their options. Whichever player wins neutral and successfully gets the first attack off will be in the advantage state. I'll cover the specifics on how you should play neutral with Greatsword in the high diamond section, but for now, let's talk about the basics. How do you win neutral? The first step is control. You want to control the stage and make it to where your opponent is in an uncomfortable situation to attack you. You always want to be in the middle of the stage and have your opponent closer to the edge. If you're in the middle, keep the pressure on and try to get them to throw out an attack. If they miss, that's a punish opportunity that you have. If they approach you while you're in the middle, you can jump there, depending on what weapon they have. You want to be careful with this if they have lance, axe, or spear, and instead you should avoid them if they try to approach you, while still maintaining stage control. You also want to be able to weapon starve if you get the chance. Patience plays a big part in the game. I see so many games end in losses because of a lack of patience. There's no rush to take a stock away or end the game, so don't put yourself in risky situations that can jeopardize your lead if you don't have to. If your opponent is low, don't just start throwing out attacks. Keep the same pace and keep playing like you're regularly building damage. Some people will start to play passive if you have a lead, and they'll stop attacking and wait for you to miss and attack first. This gives you an advantage since you'll be able to hold stage control, and you can slowly pressure them into moving into a position where they'll either panic and throw out a move, or you'll be able to throw out an attack that hits and is hard to punish. If you find yourself getting punished a lot, this is usually because you're not playing safe enough, or you're throwing out a lot of attacks that are missing. A Greatsword Pro once said, "You want to throw out an attack only when you're 100% sure it'll hit." So next time you play, keep these wise words in mind. For spacing, you want to know your matchups and be thinking of all the ways your opponent could approach. For example, guitar players will most likely either approach you with Dare or Sidelight. But if you're in the air, this changes to D-Light, Nair, or Recovery. You want to constantly be thinking about what position you're in and how your opponent would want to approach you. I know this sounds simple, but most people aren't thinking about this while playing. You want to maintain the right distance from your opponent to where you can hit them, but they can't hit you. If you're going to attack, try to use quick, low commitment moves that are hard to punish if missed. These moves are Dare, Sidelight, and Recovery. And if you're waiting for them to attack, you don't want to be too far away to where they'll be at if they miss, because then you won't be able to punish. So you have to be ready to react to what they do and how they move. Then we have habits. This matters so much when attempting to read and continue combos with Greatsword. When you're fighting, you want to make sure to watch how your opponent dodges after you hit them, especially with Sidelight and Dare. For example, in the lower ranks, your opponent will most likely have the same dodge pattern, usually either spot dodging or in dodging. The higher in elo you climb, it'll likely be harder to catch on to the habits that your opponent has. But even pros have habits you can catch on to. Keep in mind that this doesn't just apply to where your opponent dodges. This can be anything from how they approach you, how they get back on stage, and even what they do after they hit an attack. Along with catching your opponent's habits, you want to make sure to constantly change up your own as well. Lastly, we have baiting and mix-ups. You can bait with dash jump Sair because of the low end lag it has, which might cause your opponent to approach you when you miss, allowing you to get a hit in. We also have bridge delaying. Bridge delaying works as a way to bait your opponent and catch spot dodges. You can do a D-light and delay the bridge to catch your opponent off guard if they try to punish, or a side light bridge and delay the end light to catch a spot dodge or a landing. You can also land aerials into bridges or finishers. Grounded Sair side light, grounded Nair in light, and grounded Dare D-light. Gravity cancelling light attacks is also a great way to mix it up, especially GC D-light. This is a great move to get your opponent off of you. You can also GC N-light onto stage or GC N-light your opponent off the top of the map. And GC Sidelight is a good way to also get back onto the stage or to poke your opponent into oblivion. If you enter the advantage state with Sidelight, your best options that you have are to continue into a neutral light, dash cancel, and react to their movement, or jump. Sometimes your opponent won't instantly dodge after your first attack, which allows you to continue into a neutral light bridge. Based on your opponent's dodging habits, you should figure out whether to do the finisher or get ready to react to their dodge. Dash cancelling after a side light works well against opponents that don't immediately wake up after being hit. You can dash cancel into another side light if your opponent is holding their dodge, or you can dash cancel and react to their dodge. Lastly, you can jump after hitting a side light. Opponents that constantly dodge up or jump after being hit can be punished by aerial moves. Some people aren't sure whether to hit side light and wait for their dodge, or to go for the bridge and then wait for a dodge. This depends on your opponent. Some people will always dodge after the first hit because they're scared of Greatsword and they don't like damage being built up on them. So for people who dodge after the first attack, you want to hit once with your opener and then wait for their dodge. For the people who don't dodge after you hit them once, you should go for side light and light and then wait for their dodge. In higher ranks, people will know that you will be trying to react to their dodge after the second hit, so they won't dodge at all. If this keeps happening, you can start doing 3-hit combos. And now for the basic strings. First, we have Sidelight and Light strings. Sidelight and Light Sidelight is a really good combo to use. It's usually not jumpable, but sometimes it can drop. And then we have Sidelight and Light, which is a good confirm move when your opponent is really low, or to hit your opponent in the air to start a juggle. Sidelight and Light D-light is a troll string. You're not using this in game unless you have a lead or you just want to mess around. You can use this on the edge of the stage, and D-light off the side can be used as an edge guard, but if you miss, the end lag is super high, so you're probably going to get punished. Then we have Sidelight D-light strings. Sidelight D-light can be hit true, but it's pretty inconsistent, so be careful with when you want to use it. Sidelight D-light also does less damage than Sidelight N-light, which makes Sidelight D-light N-light the string that does the least amount of damage. But you can do Sidelight D-light N-light, which launches your opponent in the air for you to juggle. You also have Sidelight D-light Sidelight that you can use when your opponent is low enough to kill off the side of the stage, but not low enough that N-light will kill off the top. Then there's Sidelight D-light D-light, which can also be hit true if you hit Sidelight at the right spot, but again, this is very inconsistent to hit in game when both you and your opponent are moving and the finisher doesn't sin very far. Next are N-light D-light strings. You have N-light D-light N-light, which is a really solid move to hit your opponent in the air. You then have N-light D-light Sidelight, but this is jumpable, so it's not very good. And then N-light D-light D-light is also jumpable, so it's pretty bad. N-light D-light N-light is definitely the best out of the three. Next, you have in-light side-light strings. In-light side-light is jumpable most times, but you have in-light side-light in-light, which is good to send your opponent in the air. Then you have in-light side-light side-light, which you can actually get the side-light finisher true if you miss the in-light opener and hit the side-light bridge at the edge. Then you have in-light side-light D-light, which is like side-light in-light D-light because you can spike your opponent at the edge of the stage, except in-light side-light D-light has less in-lag, so it's slightly safer. But you can't slide off the ledge with this one. In-light side-light D-light is also the most damaging 3-hit string. Then we have D-light in-light strings. D-light in-light in-light is the same as the rest. You can hit your opponent into the air. D-light in-light side-light is jumpable, so this isn't good to use. And then D-light in-light D-light is basically side-light in-light D-light. It spikes people down. Next is D-light side-light. Never do this. This sucks. But you have D-light side-light in-light to knock your opponents up. You have D-light side-light side-light, which is jumpable, but if you miss the D-light and hit the side-light bridge at the end, you can get the side-light finisher true. And then you have D-light side-light D-light, which is basically in-light side-light D-light. You can spike with this. Alright, enough of the 3-hit combos. It's time for the fun part. You're here to do the long 17-hit plus combos that all the cool kids are doing. But in order to be able to do all this, you'll need to know how to extend combos. You can do this by chase dodging, dash canceling, and half dashing. Regularly, people will be doing a simple chase dodge when extending a combo. This is done by dashing in a direction after hitting an opener or bridge to extend the string in hopes of building more damage. I recommend learning how to sidelight inlight dash inlight and inlight sidelight dash sidelight, since these will be the foundation on how to be able to do long strings. The easiest way to learn how to do this is by starting with dash inlight and then add the first part onto it. Sidelight inlight dash inlight. The same goes for inlight sidelight dash sidelight. Now, let me show you how to dash cancel, and then we'll get into how you can implement this into your playstyle. Alright, so you want to know how to dash cancel. This is one of the hardest things you'll ever do in Brawlhalla. The first step, you hold down. Second step, you dash. And that's it. You just hold down and dash. Now, whenever you attack and you don't hold down and dash, after you attack and dash, you'll do a chase dodge. But if you do hold down and do a dash cancel after you attack, you're canceling the chase dodge. And that's a dash cancel. And that's how you dash cancel. You just attack, hold down, dash, and yeah. So you're pretty much canceling the chase dodge to get a normal dash. I'm not sure why it's not called chase dodge cancel, but anyway, I hope learning that wasn't too much of a challenge. But now, why should you do this? It's because when you dash cancel, you give yourself more control over your movement when compared to chase dodging. How so? Well, let's say your opponent jumps or dodges up after you sidelight them. If you dash canceled after the sidelight, you can immediately jump up and nair your opponent. Or if you're reversing the direction you're going, you can be more precise than chase dodging. You can even travel a shorter distance if your opponent dodges in after a sidelight. Alright, it's time for half dashing. Basically, it's dash canceling, but after you dash cancel, you're immediately going to hold back or the opposite direction of where you're going. So this is what it looks like. People will sometimes dash backwards instead of dashing forward and half dashing. This is because you're inputting the opposite movement direction earlier than you're pressing dash. So you want to try to click back after you dash. You'll know that you're half dashing correctly if after you sidelight and half dash, you're staying behind your opponent. If you want a really hard exercise to practice, you can do sidelight, half dash, in light, dash cancel reverse sidelight, half dash, in light, over and over, and that will really work on your ability to half dash and dash cancel. So what can you use this for? It's really good to use against someone that's dodging in, spot dodging, dodging up, or jumping after you hit them with sidelight. It's also really good if you're fighting someone that doesn't want to let go of their dodge. You can just keep hitting them over and over until you catch their dodge. Even if you're unsure of where they're going to dodge, doing this gives you a good amount of time to react to your opponent. Okay, it's finally time for some dodge reads. First off, we're going to start with spot dodges. So for spot dodges, the punish with the most amount of damage you can get is just the standard 5-piece combo, which is sidelight, inlight, dash, inlight, delight, inlight. And the damage done with this punish is 56.43, and this is for Jaeyoon with the attack stance, so that is a 7 attack greatsword. At number 2, the second best punish for a spot dodge is jump dare, recovery, jump nair, and this does 55.34 damage. The punish with the third amount of damage is a bridge delay 5-piece, and this is hitting sidelight, waiting for the spot dodge, then continuing into an inlight, dash, inlight, delight, inlight, and this damage is 47.75. Alright, and now for in dodges. The punish with the highest amount of damage is the standard 5-piece again, sidelight, inlight, dash, inlight, delight, inlight. Sometimes you'll notice that this 5-piece actually drops, and this is because your opponent can actually touch the ground in the middle of this combo. And if they do, you'll see a little indicator, a dash indicator, and if you see that, then you should actually switch to doing a 4-piece, which is sidelight, inlight, dash, inlight, inlight instead, because they won't get their dodge back in time to avoid the 4-piece like they would the 5-piece. And the second best option is also going to be the jump dare, recovery, nair option, and that is the same amount of damage, 55.34. And then at third place we have the bridge delay 5-piece again, and you can actually catch this. Sidelight, wait for the dodge, inlight, dash, inlight, delight, inlight, and this is going to look like this. And yeah, that catches in dodges. Okay, and now for out dodges. At first place, again, we have the 5-piece. And then at second place, we have, after sidelight, you dash, inlight, delight, inlight, and just do the end of the 5-piece. And this does 35.81 damage. Now you can also dash jump grounded there, but this is really weird and like not useful, but it's just like an extra thing to throw in if you really want to style. You can just do that if you want. Okay, and now for up and away dodges. At number 1 we have dash jump recovery nair, and this does 40.15 damage. And then we also have Enlight, Delight, Enlight. That does 35.81 damage. Now keep in mind, you do have to delay this dash Enlight just a little bit. And now something else that I just found is you can dash jump Sair weapon throw. I'm not sure how useful this is or what else you can like do this in, but this is just something extra that I'll throw in. Alright, and now for up and in dodges. First, we have the bridge delay 5-piece, 47.75 damage. Then we have the jump recovery nair, 40.15 damage. And then we have the Enlight, Delight, Enlight, which is 35.81 damage. Now we have down and away dodges. First, we have the 4-piece Sidelight, Enlight, Dash, Enlight, Enlight, and this is 46.66 damage. Then we have the 3-piece, which is Sidelight, Enlight, Sidelight, or Sidelight, Enlight, Enlight, and this is 35.81 damage. Now we have down and in dodges. First place, we have Jump There, Recovery, Jump Nair, which is 55.34 damage. Now keep in mind, for all of the times where you're doing a dare recovery read, you only have to jump if your opponent is a little damaged, but you don't have to jump if they're on a new white stock. And then next we have the 4-piece Sidelight, Enlight, Dash, Enlight, Enlight, and that is 46.66 damage. And then we have the 3-piece Sidelight, Enlight, Sidelight, or Sidelight, Enlight, Enlight, and this is 35.81 damage. You should also know that if you hit Sidelight at the very edge of the hitbox, you can actually bridge delay into a 5-piece, but it only works if you hit the very end of Sidelight, so it's pretty inconsistent, but I just thought you should know this. Alright, so I forgot to put up and down dodge reads into the script, so I'm just going to show you real quick. For up, we can jump recovery there. You can also just jump Sair. You can jump reverse nair, and you can actually do a 3-piece. You can do Sidelight, Dash, Enlight, Delight, Enlight, and you can also reverse it, so it looks like this. And now for down dodge reads, you can do a dare recovery nair, and then you can also do a 4-piece. You can also do a bridge delay 5-piece as well. Now let's talk about how to finish a stock with Greatsword. In the case that there's no weapon spawn that would allow you to KO easier with your second weapon, you can hit Dare Nair, which is true at certain healths. Non-Greatsword players will say that we can just sidelight, D-light, but try not to rely too much on this. This is extremely inconsistent, and in the very big chance that it ends up dropping, you can be punished very easily. But if you do decide to try this, you'll need to hit sidelight at the very edge of the Greatsword. You can also dash jump fast fall recovery, which is pretty hard to punish and covers a pretty decent area. You can fast fall recovery after hitting dare if your opponent dodges down or is low enough and doesn't dodge at all. You can also recovery directly out of Greatsword Openers. To do this, after you hit sidelight, you want to jump dash instead of dash jump. You want to jump dash and then recovery after you hit a sidelight. Now for offstage. You want to never go off stage if you do not have to. Greatsword is terrible when playing from below, and if you're not careful and your opponent slips above you, it's pretty much over. If you do go off stage, make sure you're at a safe distance above your opponent where you can throw out a dare. And make sure when you dare, your momentum is either being carried upward or in place. Fast falling when you dare can make for cool clips, but be careful doing this in a match that you're trying to play optimally and win in. Now for edge guarding. You can guard the wall with dare if your opponent is low on options while making it back up. That's going to be your most optimal way of edge guarding. You can also dash jump grounded dare into D-light on the edge of the stage, but be careful if you do choose this option. You can also just wait on stage where you can bait them to recover near the wall so you can hit them with sidelight. You can also fast fall recovery on the edge. Just make sure to be patient when your opponent is on the wall and don't be in a rush to end the stock. Now, getting back to stage is one of Greatsword's weakest points. But when getting back to stage, you can jump nair if your opponent is above you. Be careful if your opponent is hovering above ready to dare with weapons like spear, and try to time your dodge to be used when they try to dare you. If you have room to do so, you can also weapon throw above and then recovery behind or under it. In general, you want to try to use your aerials if your opponent is close to you and save your recovery until the end. Now, how should you play and improve in each rank? For silver, you just want to focus on playing the game more. Try to learn the basic movement and mechanics, and with experience, you'll be able to reach gold. It's just a matter of time and playing the game, so you can familiarize yourself. Learn which attack does what on Greatsword and stick to an effective 3-hit combo that you can use. For gold, you can get to plat very easily by knowing your fundamentals: movement, dodging, and basic attacks. Know when your opponent is low enough to start focusing on killing moves like dash jump recovery, and when you should use SIGs. People in gold attack way too much, so your main focus should be on figuring out your spacing and then punishing missed attacks. You should learn when you catch someone's dodge, how many hits that allows you to get. I know people a lot of times will catch someone that dodged in the air, but then try to read their dodge when you can just finish the combo. You should also know that dodging isn't the only way to avoid attacks or get out of combos. You can weapon throw, jump away, fast fall, and wake up. Also, don't only approach and attack. You can approach your opponent and wait for them to throw out an attack, and then you can punish them. If you're Platinum, you should focus on being able to see how your opponent dodges. Usually, people in Platinum will dodge one or two ways every time, either being spot dodge or end dodge. Spend some time in training and set the bot to dodge in different ways and work on how you can catch each of these dodges with Greatsword. So that way, if they keep dodging the same way in game, you'll know exactly what you need to do in order to catch them. If you notice yourself getting hit a lot, you're either bad at spacing or you're throwing out so many attacks that are getting punished. And if you don't know why you're losing, then you need to actually use your brain when you play. This sounds harsh, but it needs to be said. A lot of people expect to improve by just playing the game, and that improvement will just come to them. But this is only true if you're actively thinking and trying to adapt. Then people say the game sucks or blame other things on why they're not gaining elo. You should always be thinking and focusing when you're playing if you're looking to improve. And if you're not thinking, then you'll be playing with muscle memory and you won't be actively adapting and changing your playstyle when fighting different matchups or when the opponent decides to play faster or slower. This is also a mental aspect that people should understand. If you don't believe you can improve, then you won't improve. Spacing can improve with practice and knowledge comes from the application of experience. If you keep getting hit by the same move over and over, then try something else. In the words of the famous use, if you see something that's not working, don't keep trying it. Knowing hitboxes is really important in spacing properly, and I know players hate fighting SiG spammers. So a cool thing you can do if you're really struggling on this is go into training or watch a replay and then go frame by frame to look at SiG hitboxes so that you have the knowledge of where you don't want to be when they throw it out. If you're getting punished a lot, you're throwing out too many attacks that are missing. If you're throwing out so many attacks, try to switch it up and only attack when you're punishing your opponent's whiffs. And remember to use low end lag attacks that are hard to punish, such as Dare, Sidelight, and Recovery. Utilize your options correctly. This means that if you can avoid an attack by just stepping back or by jumping over it, there's no need to use your dodge to dodge up or back. You should start to stop relying on your dodges to avoid moves, because in higher elo, people will start throwing out attacks that have small end lag in order to get you to use your dodge, which will benefit the opponent if you don't punish them. Once you're in low diamond, you'll really need to be able to adapt and change your playstyle. This is one of the most important skills to work on and improve. The higher in elo you climb, the more unpredictable your opponent will become, which means that you'll have to rely less on muscle memory and more on your awareness and ability to adapt quickly. For example, this happens lots of times to me when I'm playing Greatsword. I'll be attacking my opponent and getting one or two hits off and then reading their dodge, but after a bit of time, the opponent will stop dodging completely because they know that that's what I'm fishing for. And if you don't notice things like this, your opponent will be able to just keep waking up after you hit them and you're giving them free damage. And things like this can easily cost you the game if you're not paying attention. You also need to focus a whole lot more on your neutral game compared to the ranks before, because now there's less of a chance your opponent will make mistakes, which gives you less opportunity to hit them. You should focus on having the correct spacing, then on baiting out attacks. You can bait out attacks with your movement. If you're moving fast around your opponent, they'll get nervous or they'll think they have a chance to hit you, and if they miss, that's your chance to punish. You also need to learn how to reset neutral on Greatsword. This is when you hit your opponent and they don't dodge, you now should back off rather than trying to force another attack, because if they're holding onto their dodge and you're waiting to react or you're going for a dodge read, they have the advantage. So you should now start to get a hidden and then back off if they don't use their dodge, and just repeat this. This ties into having an understanding of when you need to apply pressure or when you should play defensively. You only want to apply pressure if your opponent is at a disadvantage. So if your opponent uses their dodge in the air, apply pressure with Greatsword. Jump nair and try to juggle them. If they're in the air after you hit them with a recovery, what I like to do is, if they still have their dodge, I like to bait their dodge out by jumping towards them and then fast falling to hit the ground to get my jump back. And most times your opponent will think that you're going to nair them when you jump at them, so they'll use their dodge. But now you'll be able to hit them knowing they don't have a dodge after you see them use it. If they don't dodge when you jump at them, then that tells you that next time you can just fully commit to attacking instead of trying to bait their option. Another thing I like to do that works really well is jump there after I sidelight if I don't know where my opponent is going to dodge, so mostly at the start of games. Jump there, if you saw in the dodge read section, can cover spot dodges, down dodges, and in dodges, which is a really good move to use. Even if you miss it, it's pretty hard to punish as well. And if they don't dodge, or if they dodge out, use that information the next time you land a sidelight. Another big thing is using patience as a part of how you play. Imugi just came out, and this tip applies to him, Magyar, and Arcadia, so our slower Greatsword legends. I've joked around with this in my Discord server that you can join. The link will be in the description and pinned comment, and right now all of you have the chance to see your Brawlhalla clip in upcoming videos. There's a channel where every month people will vote on what they think is the best submitted clip, and the clip with the most votes will be shown at the end of my video. So definitely join and come hang out there. But anyways, I've said that when playing Magyar, you can literally just sit in the middle of stage and then jump there if you're approached, which is semi-true. If you think about it, speed matters the most when you're in the air or if you're off stage. So those are the places that you want to avoid if you're playing low speed legends. So being patient and staying in the middle of stage, even if your opponent is on the edge, will help you out a lot. Magyar and Imugi have a lot of defense, so the quickest way they can get knocked out is if they lose off stage. Other than that, they'd have to get hit a lot of times in order to build up damage to KO them off the top or the side. Playing Magyar or Imugi like this can definitely help train your patience, and it's worth trying. Lastly, this is something that has helped me improve the most, and it's watching better players play Greatsword. Watching some tournament sets that are uploaded on YouTube or watching live streams of tournaments can help out a lot if you're looking at the options that pros are using when playing the weapon. This is something I need to do more often because I've been getting into Street Fighter 6 recently, and I've been watching a lot of tournament sets and pro YouTubers, and it's been helping me improve at a very fast rate. So the next time you have some free time, take a look at some Brawlhalla tournament sets that have been going on. This was only part 1 of the Greatsword guide. I'll need some more time to finish the next part, where I'll cover the high diamond section, and then talk about some mistakes to avoid while playing Greatsword, and share some interesting Greatsword tech. And I'll go over some legend specific gameplay too. But if you enjoyed this video or think that it could even help a friend, a like or a share would be greatly appreciated. Recently, I've been able to have channel members. So far, you'll be able to watch any video or short I post ahead of its scheduled time if you'd like to become a channel member. But I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.